The billionaire froze when her daughter suddenly ran across the crowded courtyard and threw her arms around a stranger everyone else had been warned to avoid. For years, 6-year-old Rosalie Vance had struggled to tolerate unfamiliar people, loud environments, unexpected touches, and changes to her carefully structured routine. Yet that bright afternoon, she ignored every security guard around her and rushed straight toward a quiet single father wearing a faded maintenance jacket. What happened next would uncover a secret buried beneath years of silence and change 3 families forever. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave a meaningful comment, and subscribe to our channel so you can remain part of our family and our community. Claudia Vance was the founder and CEO of one of the country's fastest-growing medical technology companies. At 42, she had everything newspapers described as success: a luxurious home, private aircraft, powerful friends, and enough money to solve almost any problem. But there was one thing wealth had never been able to purchase for her. She could not buy her daughter an easier life. Rosalie was autistic, and Claudia had spent years learning that her daughter's world worked differently from everyone else's. Rosalie was brilliant, intensely observant, and deeply sensitive. She could spend hours arranging colored objects according to patterns only she understood, memorize entire pages from books, and notice tiny changes in her surroundings that other people completely missed. But crowded places overwhelmed her, sudden sounds frightened her, and unfamiliar people often caused her to retreat into silence. Claudia loved her daughter fiercely, yet guilt followed her everywhere because she believed her demanding career had forced Rosalie to spend too many hours with therapists, specialists, and caregivers instead of simply having a mother beside her. Rosalie's world depended on routine. Every morning followed the same order, every meal had familiar foods, and every afternoon included a quiet walk through the company's private garden whenever Claudia was working at headquarters. Security officers knew never to approach Rosalie suddenly. Her therapists had taught Claudia that forcing interaction could make things worse. So when Rosalie began behaving differently around a maintenance worker named Everett Hale, Claudia was immediately suspicious. Everett was a 40-year-old single father who worked for an outside facilities company. He spent his days repairing equipment, checking electrical systems, and maintaining the grounds around large corporate buildings. He rarely spoke about himself, and most executives assumed he was simply another hard-working employee trying to get through the day. What nobody knew was that Everett had once been a Navy SEAL. Years earlier, he had served in dangerous operations overseas, where discipline, patience, and extraordinary courage were necessary for survival. After leaving the military, he returned home hoping to build a quiet life with his wife and young son, Finley. But tragedy changed everything. His wife died unexpectedly after an illness, leaving Everett to raise Finley alone. He refused to let grief turn him bitter. He found honest work, learned how to balance fatherhood with responsibility, and deliberately avoided discussing his military past. He did not want admiration. He wanted his son to remember him as a father who was present, not as a soldier who had spent years somewhere far away. The first time Rosalie noticed Everett, he was repairing a broken irrigation system near the garden. He did not stare at her, ask her questions, or try to make her smile. He simply continued working while allowing her to observe him from a comfortable distance. Rosalie watched him carefully for several minutes before walking closer. She pointed toward a small metal valve he was holding, then toward the garden fountain. Everett understood that she was interested in what he was doing. He slowly demonstrated how the valve worked, giving her space and allowing her to decide whether she wanted to come closer. For the first time in weeks, Claudia watched her daughter voluntarily engage with an unfamiliar adult. The following afternoon, Rosalie returned to the garden and looked for Everett. He had brought his son Finley with him because the boys' school had ended early. Finley was carrying a small wooden box filled with model airplanes he had built. Rosalie immediately noticed them. Instead of speaking, she sat several feet away and began drawing an airplane in her notebook. Finley placed one of his models on the bench near her without saying anything. Rosalie studied it, then carefully moved it closer to herself. The three of them spent nearly an hour together without anyone forcing conversation. Claudia watched from a distance, astonished by how naturally her daughter had accepted them. Soon, Rosalie began anticipating Everett's visits. She would finish her therapy sessions and immediately head toward the garden. Everett never treated her differently because of her autism. He understood that patience was more powerful than pressure. When she became overwhelmed, he reduced the stimulation around her instead of demanding that she behave normally. When she became excited about something, he allowed her to share it in her own way. Claudia slowly realized that Everett possessed a rare quality: he did not see Rosalie as a problem to solve. But Claudia's protective instincts eventually created conflict. She ordered her security team to investigate Everett's background. The report came back with something shocking. His military record contained classified references, commendations, and years of service as a Navy SEAL. Claudia immediately feared that she had allowed a dangerous stranger near her daughter. She confronted Everett and demanded to know why he had never mentioned his military history. Everett remained calm and explained that he had left that life behind. He had never approached Rosalie because of Claudia's wealth, and he had never intended to become part of their lives. He simply recognized a child who deserved patience. Claudia did not believe him completely. She restricted Rosalie from visiting the garden and instructed security to prevent Everett from interacting with her outside necessary work areas. The result was immediate and painful. Rosalie became withdrawn, stopped drawing, and began repeatedly checking the window overlooking the garden. Claudia tried everything she could think of, but nothing helped. For the first time, she realized that her attempt to protect her daughter had taken away something genuinely meaningful from her. Then came the afternoon that changed everything. A large charity event was being held at the company's headquarters. Hundreds of guests filled the sunny outdoor courtyard while employees prepared food and children played near the garden. Claudia kept Rosalie close because she knew the crowd could become overwhelming. Suddenly, a heavy decorative structure shifted after a support mechanism failed. Several people screamed and moved in different directions. Rosalie panicked instantly. She covered her ears and froze as the crowd surged around her. Before Claudia could reach her, Everett saw what was happening. His military training took over. He moved through the crowd with extraordinary focus, guiding people away from the unstable structure while simultaneously creating a quiet space around Rosalie. He did not grab her or force her to move. Instead, he lowered himself to her level, blocked the surrounding noise as much as possible, and used the same calm visual signals he had learned from spending time with her. Rosalie recognized him immediately. She stopped trembling and reached for his hand. Moments later, the structure collapsed into the empty area Everett had cleared. Nobody was seriously injured. The crowd erupted in confusion, but Claudia could see only her daughter. Rosalie was holding Everett's hand, completely calm. Then she did something that stunned her mother. She leaned against Everett's shoulder and began crying, not from fear, but from relief. Claudia finally understood the truth. Everett's military background had not made him dangerous to Rosalie. It had taught him patience under pressure. More importantly, his experience as a single father had taught him something no military training could provide: unconditional compassion. Claudia apologized to Everett. She admitted that fear had caused her to judge him before understanding him. Everett accepted her apology, but he also reminded her that Rosalie did not need a perfect mother. She needed a mother willing to learn her language, respect her differences, and be present. Those words affected Claudia deeply. From that day forward, Claudia changed her priorities. She began attending Rosalie's therapy sessions, learning more about autism, and redesigning parts of her company headquarters to make them more accessible for neurodivergent children. She also created a foundation supporting families who could not afford specialized services. Everett became involved in the program, not as a celebrity or decorated veteran, but as a father who understood what it meant to raise a child while carrying personal struggles of his own. Finley and Rosalie became close friends. Their friendship was unusual but beautiful. They communicated through drawings, models, gestures, and long afternoons spent exploring the garden. Rosalie gradually became more comfortable with change, while Finley learned that friendship did not require everyone to communicate in the same way. Months later, Claudia organized a small daytime celebration for the Foundation's first group of families. Rosalie stood beside her mother while Everett and Finley joined them. Instead of hiding behind Claudia, Rosalie walked confidently toward the microphone. She did not give a long speech. She simply held up a drawing she had created, 4 people standing beneath a bright sun, holding hands beside a garden filled with flowers. At the bottom she had written one sentence. Everyone belongs somewhere. Claudia could barely hold back her tears. Everett looked at the drawing and smiled. He knew that Rosalie had not suddenly become a different child. She had simply found people who accepted the child she already was. Before the final moment of this story, we want to hear from you. Leave a meaningful comment telling us what you believe the greatest lesson is, that kindness can reach someone when words cannot, that every child deserves to be understood rather than changed, or that second chances can transform people who are willing to listen. Your comment may give hope to someone in our community who is facing a struggle silently. As the afternoon sun covered the garden, Claudia watched Rosalie laughing with Finley while Everett repaired a small wooden bench nearby. The billionaire CEO who once believed she could protect her daughter by controlling every detail of her life finally understood something much more important. Love was not about eliminating every difficulty. It was about standing beside someone through those difficulties without making them feel broken. Everett had once served in places where courage meant surviving impossible situations. But years later, he discovered that his greatest mission was not behind enemy lines. It was simply being a good father, showing patience to a child who communicated differently, and reminding a grieving mother that she did not have to face everything alone. Rosalie had not needed a billionaire to solve her world. She had needed people willing to enter it gently. And sometimes, the most powerful heroes are not the people who save us from danger. They are the people who sit quietly beside us, understand our silence, and make us believe that we belong. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey.